RV Renovation Nation. Welcome to the New Look RV Renovation podcast,
where we want to empower and entertain RV renovators with relevant information, ideas, and stories.
If you're enjoying these shows, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and check us out on YouTube.
And on this episode, we talk with a couple of people that have inspired us personally for a long time.
Aaron and Travis of Our Lively Tribe came onto our radars back in 2017 when we were pursuing full-time travel and looking into RV renovation.
Hearing and seeing their stories of travel and now renovation have been so inspirational to so many.
They gave us some great heartfelt perspective on what makes a meaningful and practical RV renovation.
So without further ado, here's our conversation with Aaron and Travis.
Well, Aaron and Travis, welcome to the podcast. We are so grateful that you took the time to sit down with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so we've mostly taken in your story through YouTube over the years, and it's been fun to just kind of see, especially now if you look back at like your uploads folder, like I mentioned, I took a peek back at that last night, just to kind of see your life kind of organically, unfold, and where you guys began with kind of full-time traveling, and then, life took some twists and turns, and you've turned it into an RV renovation business. And I guess we really just want to start with, how did you guys ever decide to start documenting your life, in this way?
I think when it came to YouTube, it was more of like a time capsule to show our friends and family what we were doing. When we started in 2016, it wasn't really a thing. Our friends and family were all very confused as to why we were moving into an RV to travel. And so it was more or less, we wanted to record it, to share it with our family, to say, look, this is what we're doing and this is what we're seeing. And it just kind of turned into this really cool keepsake that we have for our kids. And then as we evolved into a business, it really turned into sharing RV renovations. And it became a thing and people got really interested in it, which then kind of, launched the YouTube in a direction that we hadn't expected. And I don't keep up with enough, but I know that it is, it's really been enjoyable for a lot. So,
well, yeah, social media and YouTube, all of them in general. I mean, that's a whole nother job. That's like trying to balance life exhausting. And business, and it's a tough task.
Well, and for us, all of this has been so organic. It's not even funny, just the idea of even moving into the trailer was such a random thing. So yeah, it's not like we got involved in any of this for the actual chasing money or a job. It just kind of all snowballed as it went.
I love that. So with the first trailer that you guys moved into as a family, how did renovating an RV kind of come into your radar?
So we had decided we'd become full-time wedding photographers, and we found that we were only working weekends and our kids were in school and we were kind of bored during the week. He was building things, tables and stuff for some hotels and just some side work to keep him busy. But we kind of came up with this, oh my gosh, we could camp during the week.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we could come back on the weekends and photograph. And how cool would that be? We had a trailer, we loved camping, and we kind of laughed about it. And then we stopped and looked at each other and we were like, we could really do that.
Yeah.
So I started looking it up and researching it. And there were a few families living in their trailers and traveling. And I was like, wait, we really could do that. And that our trailer was brown and ugly. And I was like, well, if we're going to invest all of our time into living in this full time, I want it to feel like home. So let's paint it. Let's make it work for us and put a new table in and kind of make it cozy and a real couch. And so we took a year. We told our families, this is what we're going to do. We're going to move into our trailer and travel. And they were just like, oh, sure. Okay. And then when he was done renovating it and we moved into it, it just felt so right. And we traveled for 14 months and it was wonderful. It was great.
It's amazing to see those adventures. You guys, obviously you didn't record them all and post them all, but just the things you got to share with most of your kids at that time, right? You had 3 boys during the first.
Yeah. So we had 3 boys at the time we traveled, and then we ended up stopping because I got pregnant and do not handle pregnancy well. I'm pretty sick. So when we were in Oregon, I ended up having to go to the hospital, and I was just like, I'm done. Like I need some stability for a while. We need to settle down for a bit, and then we'll reevaluate this after he's here. So we settled down for a year, had our fourth son, River. And then at the end of that year, we all kind of looked at each other and the boys, and we just said, how about we do that again? And so we did, and we renovated a fifth wheel this time because we had 4 boys, went into something bigger, and kind of built a little homestead on his parents' back acre so we could renovate between travel. So that's where we are now.
This is fresh for me because I said we just went through, we spent a little bit on your YouTube page again last night. So I think, was the video called You Accidentally Sold the Trailer? Was that the thumbnail on that one?
We were over in Florida and went on FaceTime Live and said we're going to sell our rig. And that morning we woke up to a message saying, we'll take it. We'll take it. And they lived in Oklahoma. So
I mean, that had to be mind blowing at that time, right? I mean, that's...
Well, it was amazing that, anyone wanted it for one. I mean, that was no intent. And
I didn't think anything would come of it.
Yeah, we woke up to a message saying, we'll take it full price.
Can you bring it to...
Can you drop it off on your way back
Oklahoma?
Home? So, we packed up and we traveled from Florida up to Oklahoma and met this incredible couple, and they bought it off of us and took it out.
We got a U-Haul. We put all of our things from the trailer into the U-Haul. Found one in Houston that we'd wanted.
Oh my God.
Drove down to Houston, cash in hand, bought the one in Houston, came back to California.
I took 6 weeks and renovated that trailer, and it was during that 6 week time that I told her, I remember saying, like, I want to do this forever. Like, I am so in love with, at that time, I kind of was pushing the envelope from what I had done. I wanted to try new things, and that's when I really started bringing the welding into it and things like that. So,
and this second one, this was intended for you guys originally?
Yeah, we had decided we were going to do another year on the road with the boys. We had really found our flow in this like RV lifestyle of full-time travel, and we just fell in love with it. So we had come back from Houston with that rig, parked it at his parents who have some property, and he had kind of converted this big building into a shop. And then we lived with my parents for a while. And in that 6 week period, that's when I found out I was pregnant. And I ended up just kind of bedridden from there.
Yeah.
And he finished the renovation, and we had to be in Oregon by May to meet some family. And so we got it done, rushed up to Oregon. And that entire 6 weeks on the road, I was just in bed or in the hospital.
It was bad. Yeah. And I had just done this rig that I was, so
beautiful,
proud of.
And I didn't even get to like turn it into our space.
Yeah.
So did you guys just list it?
We sold it to friends.
We came back and we listed it, and it was sold so fast that it was just like, okay, this may be something. Like, maybe we're on to something here, and that was really what got the ball rolling, was all of these little things. And we sold that first one. Someone randomly contacted us and asked Susie and Rick, and they mean so much to us because they got the ball rolling, and they just reached out and said, hey, would you renovate ours for us? And we hadn't thought of that. We thought we'd buy them and renovate them and sell them. Yeah. And they reached out. So we took them on, and they took a huge leap with us, and we took a leap of faith, and so they have our first client rig. It's still out on the road. They still travel in it, and it's continued every, renovation from there. It's mostly word of mouth. We've done a few that we've been able to purchase ourselves and sell after, which is really fun because then we can do whatever we want to them.
Can you contrast that a little bit more? So the difference between a client renovation and a renovation where you're buying and selling on your own. Can you kind of give us your ins and outs on that one?
I think there's pros and cons to both of them.
Pros is that you get to make all the decisions yourself. That's the pro. The con is then you don't have guidance. So, deciding, okay, is this going to be for 2 kids or 4 kids? Those questions in between are more challenging if you don't have an idea of where it's going. For me, I like the independence, but I also like the guidance because in the end, I want it to be for someone and have it work completely for them. So we're kind of in between. We can do either, but
and we know when a client contacts us and they're ready to go full time, they've sold their house, they are working from home, they want to just get out and explore and be a family together. Those are like our ideal clients, because that was what we did. So we know how important that was for us as a family to live that lifestyle, and what it did to our family and how close it brought us together. So when those clients contact us, and we kind of just go, we find our clients and they find us based upon like if it continues to work out. And in the end, they have, the rig that they want to travel and live in. That's when we know it's all kind of meant to be.
Well, what's really interesting about you guys is going back to that organicness again of kind of like your story unfolding on YouTube, is that I got to imagine a lot of your clients that your life has become part of your brand, in a way. And so, yeah, that's so interesting that, the adventure and the togetherness that you guys are portraying, I got to imagine your clients are looking for the same thing.
We're so like, our clients literally become a part of our family. They're so grateful for us for giving them the stability to give them a home on wheels. And then we're so grateful that they're following their dreams and letting us follow our dreams. So they mean a whole lot to us, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild. It's true. Like they feel like they're a part of us. So even if there is a mistake in the rig or along the road, there's a problem, because they love us and we love them, and we're so connected that they're willing to reach out and be like, hey, we're having this issue. They're not angry towards it. They're more like, can we work together to figure it out? Or,
and we're finding a lot of these families are like first time ever camping RV families. They've never camped in a trailer, let alone towed a trailer. So when we give our clients their rig, we are giving them lessons on driving. We're giving them,
we camp with them to start.
The last couple, they'd never camped. So we brought our trailer and we set up at the campground right next to them, and we helped them, for the weekend. We walked them through their
towing
RV
lessons
and towed them around and
emptying that black tank,
emptying
all of it,
emptying the black tank. Yeah, it's it becomes this huge amount of love between all of our families. So that's something that I think our parents' generation don't understand, because it's like, you just work, you get paid, this is it, but we're creating something that's a lot more special, and it feels like that. It really does. So we're so fortunate with it.
How do you guys feel like, from living in a RV full time, how do you feel like that influences your designs or the work that you put into RVs?
I think you understand the functionality of using every single space. Of a lot of families aren't going to break down the table and turn it into a bed every night if they're living in it full time. And you often find those tables are really, really wobbly. And so it's replacing those things. It's using the couch that's not going to be used for a bed, because everybody has a bed, and making that into a ton of storage, because storage is a huge thing that you need when traveling. And then also making it a large lounge space or an extra bed to have for a guest. And so I think that because we live in one currently, and we've traveled in them, we really understand what works and what doesn't work, and the functionality of things within it. So,
and I'm a huge fan of simplicity. I totally dislike that everything's becoming motors now, and everything's becoming electronical and all of them. So in our own rigs, I usually tell people I'm taking out the radio. I'm not going to install a television. I have my ideas on what I want this to kind of be for you. I'm going to put those in there for you.
And it's great because we often have families that contact us that say, we don't want a TV. We don't, we're not going to use one. If we watch anything, we watch them on our iPhones or iPads. And so, but the reality of it is it forces you to be outside more. And that's just the goal. So,
yeah. So I have so much intent behind them and the way we do put them together. It's not bells and whistles. It's simplicity, and I have a huge goal that everywhere you look, I want it to look cool. So the rules I go by is it needs to function, it has to do its job, and it needs to be cool to look at. So in the end, if I walk away and I don't feel like it's cool, then I'm starting over, so And that's just as true as it can be. I want to look in every corner and really see a piece of my own frustration in that piece.
Yeah.
Is really what it comes down to. So
Well, and it seems like you guys have an affinity for a little bit older trailers, travel
yeah.
trailers.
Oh
Can you
yeah.
kind of expand on that a little bit? Like, what is it that you find in a certain age group that you think is lacking in some of the newer ones?
Too many motors, too many electronical pieces. I'm a huge fan of getting out and putting their work in. So I want you to get out and crank down your stabilizers. Those are things that I am pushing into our clients.
Yeah.
But it's because I want you to go and feel it. I want you to understand it and put work into it.
It's also one less thing to worry about breaking.
Yeah,
and so I think
crank.
with the older models, you can just, they're built heavier, they're built hardier. When you tear them apart, they're a little harder to tear apart because they're built better.
Yeah.
We find with the newer RVs, when somebody brings us a newer one or we purchase a newer one to renovate, they just literally fall apart as we're tearing them apart. And we find things that in this last one we did, the mount for where you would put the TV, there was a sticker on the outside wall that said TV mount here, but the actual wood where you would mount the TV to was like up here.
Yeah, it's awful.
In the completely wrong spot. And so you find these things and the shady wood that they use behind the walls, and you're just like, oh my gosh, these things are built crazy.
Especially the ultralight versions, where it's just like a little 1x2 stud.
Well, and it's heartbreaking that families are spending so much on these new rigs that aren't built any better. Most times seem to be built worse than the older ones that were half the price when they were new. So I'm a huge fan of save your money, spend 10 grand on an older one, and then invest the 20,000 and get it renovated to work really well for you.
Those older ones have also had a lot of the kinks worked out of them. Oftentimes 10 years ago, people were buying trailers, camped in them maybe 5 times, but they mostly sat in a storage lot. So you can walk into them and they smell brand new. Yeah. Oftentimes a lot of the kinks have been worked out, by it rattling down the road several times. Things have broken, they've had it fixed by warranty. So by the time you get your hands on them, those things have been worked out. Yeah. So we find that those have less problems once we get into them.
And some of this might be because you guys are in a completely different climate, I imagine, than we are. It looks a lot drier, where you guys are at. But we tend to lean towards, we do renovations just on travel trailers at this point. We tend to lean towards newer ones just because we find such water issues with basically anything that's more than 5 years old. And it really just comes down to that people didn't take care of, recaulking the roof seals and checking that stuff out regularly.
Know that they have to do is they need to get on the roof every year and they need to reseal it. We've had 1 or 2 that we've dealt with water damage with, but we prefer, when a client contacts us, we'll say we prefer to go out and buy them because we really know what to look for when it comes to those things. But we are lucky being in California and Arizona.
Climate, for sure.
We don't deal with water damage as often as I'm sure you guys do.
So yeah, I think there's those give and takes for where you live. You're going to find ones that have more water damage and rust because there's more water. So you're dealing with different things than we are, for sure.
How many renovations have you done, I guess, in total? Do you have a number?
We're on our 13. We have 12 and 13 over here. Yeah.
Wow.
This was 11 that we're in.
Most of those have been travel trailers. Have you done a fifth wheel or two, or what's the breakdown?
We've done 2 fifth wheels, a couple Class C's, a Class A.
Yeah, we've done them all. They're all rad. I'm not too particular over either one. I like traveling in travel trailers. And so I usually encourage clients, if they're contacting us, everyone wants bigger and bigger and bigger. And I encourage smaller. So I like to see our families take off in a travel trailer. I think it simplifies it. I think it leaves the bed space, which was really important to us when we traveled, having a full size bed to put all your things
in the back of the truck,
and being able to not have to worry about height, not having to check what bridges you are going to be going under, so I'm a huge fan of the travel trailers, but as far as renovating them, they're all built the same. They really are. They're coming out of the exact same factory, same materials. So either way, it's okay.
And so you guys, as this turned into a business and you realized it was going to be a business, you got to kind of set up shop. Like I have serious shop envy. You got this big shed and
I don't, and we're so fortunate. My dad put that steel building up when I was 5 years old. He never did anything. He left a sailboat in there and then filled it with a bunch of stuff around it. So all of a sudden, when I was at an age and I'd been welding for a long time and quit my welding job and needed a place to start building things, he wasn't really, he was partially okay with it and partially reluctant to the idea of me moving in there.
Very much often reminded him, it's still my space.
Still mine. So, but now I look at it and I'm so grateful. I couldn't imagine doing it out of a smaller space, especially the amount of, I put so much time in, I could not imagine doing it in a shed. So keep working to get yourself a steel building.
We're right beside our house right now. We live in a residential area, and so we got to like teeter. We got to manage what we're doing so the neighbors don't get too upset. So.
And I'm so grateful. We're out here on 2.5 acres. I'm working at midnight, grinding away, and there's no one around to complain. Anyways, our closest neighbor is like 90 years old. I don't think he could hear us anyways.
So this property you guys are on is actually where you grew up, Travis?
This is where I grew up, in a small town in Southern California called Winchester, and I love it to death. And I've always loved it. I was lucky. I never had a distaste for where I came from. But getting out on the road and seeing so many beautiful things, I realized that the property I grew up on may be the most beautiful one out there. So I have a ton of love for sitting right here.
Yeah, and we're pretty lucky we can raise the kids here. And I grew up here, so it's definitely hometown for us. And
big time.
Yeah, it's pretty special that we get to
sit here. God, I was just thinking about it.
So nice that it came full circle to raising your own boys on the same land that you grew up on.
Yeah, and that's just it just like everything else, it organically just manifested itself, and we kept following it along, and then we ended up here and at a perfect time, and we were here when my dad passed away, so we got to be here with him, and it couldn't have been better. So we're really lucky.
And then living in a fifth wheel and having planned to travel off and on, and then having the pandemic hit, we were able to build ourselves this little homestead in the back, and we're on a back acre, and the kids have all of this space to run. So then we didn't feel the need to get out and leave again, which then focused us on building the business. And now I think we're going to be more stationary long-term and continue to build the business because it's gone in such a positive direction. So as long as it keeps going that way, we'll keep doing it.
Do you guys still do a lot of photography, or is it mainly now just the renovations?
So as crazy as it seems, this last spring session, or what is it called when fall photography session, was the busiest one we've had.
Well, they were mostly, we have about 20 to 30 repeat families that come back to us every fall for family pictures. And so we've stopped doing weddings unless it's for a friend, and we do a couple a year for friends or family. But Southern California, we're right outside wine country. And so it's a pretty saturated market for wedding photography. Oh, yeah. And so we were just kind of like needing to take a step back, but we're really fortunate to have some incredible friends and family that come back to us every fall, and we'll do, 20 to 30 family sessions and
kind of be done for the year. Be like, all right,
yeah,
we did it. I still take pictures, but I still photograph constantly. I mean, that's it. Almost. Yeah. I try. It's not every day. I wish it was, because I noticed when I have my camera in hand, I'm a lot more present. I pay a lot more attention to the kids and to the family. So I really do love the days when camera's in hand all day. Those are some of my favorite for sure.
Well, and this is something that comes through in the videos, and Aaron, you might be this way too, but Travis, it comes through that you're very good at appreciating like small moments and just like small things, like what makes me think of like how the appreciation you show for a table and like a table construction. Like, is that something that you think you've practiced, or have you feel like you've always been, kind of the mindset that you want to be present and appreciate things?
I think my dad brought a lot of presents into our lives as kids growing up. I think he really instilled a lot of that. But I think so much of it has to do with Aaron and I. And I don't know, man, but I sure am focused on being present and appreciating everything. And I get lost. There's days when I don't focus, and you can tell. But for the most part, I truly try and wake up and just feel an absolute gratitude for waking up. So I try and carry that all day. Not always happens, but I really try.
Yeah, we can't be perfect, but I feel like yeah, that's just such an important like lesson, for happiness, just to appreciate the things that are around you and the small wonders, and to see that come out, like I said, with the table builds. When you explain a table construction, you
Yeah.
frame it, you frame it in such an amazing way where somebody else could be like, here's a piece of wood. It's got some stain and some poly on it.
Oh,
But to hear
no.
you explain the memories that are going to be made at that table and how, it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah, I
it's
love
not perfect because it was made by human hands. Like
You have done your homework. I love
it's such a better way of framing things. You know what I mean? And like I feel like that's just that sort of mindset. Just it brings more smiles to your day than
Yeah.
than if it's
Yeah.
just a mechanical approach. So.
Yeah, I've learned that gratitude is truly the key to happiness. So if you're able to be grateful for the smallest little thing, then man, you're ahead of the game. You
Very
really are.
true.
So on that topic, do you have a favorite table you've ever made? Is there one that stands out above all the rest?
I just finished one for our dear friends, and that is the closest to perfection of a table I think I'll be doing. I put a lot of soul and heart and love, and I put 5 coats of poly on it, which shows you, let alone, man, that little bubble that popped up on that fourth coat made me want to freaking throw it out the window. But I don't know that I'll ever. I think my last one, whatever I recently finished, is going to be my favorite one, because I put my presence into all of them. So I really hope that everyone I build will be my favorite one, which also makes it really tough because when you're trying to do something really perfect, it can wear on you big time. And it wears on her. She has to deal with me.
I feel like a lot of creative endeavors are that way. We're also photographers and videographers, and I always felt like the last, project we did, or the last, wedding we shot, or with these builds, like the last trailer renovation I did, like I feel like I never want to let them go. Like I'm always telling April, I'm like, this might be the one we have to keep,
Yep.
but
That's when you know you're doing it well, and you're putting your heart into it. That's it, man. Yeah. That's everything, man. If you don't want to let it go, that means it means something. So that's good. So my new philosophy is if you put enough love into it, someone else will love it also. So I'm really driven on that. So if you put your love into it, someone else will see that.
It seems like another trademark Our Lively Tribe renovation is to turn the bed sideways and put storage underneath. Where did that come from?
So we're really short, like really short.
Ridiculously short.
And so when it comes
on YouTube
to,
you look tall, so
Oh, that's because of the angle, bro. No.
so when we had that first trailer that we renovated to move into, it was the overhead storage over the bed. And I was like, this is silly. Like, this doesn't make any sense because I don't want to crawl on a made bed. It's not a lot of storage. I would prefer drawers below. And then us crawling into a bed, like we're young and we kind of thought we could crawl into a bed. And I think I had just seen somewhere a mattress on top of a dresser. And I think it was low so that you could sit on it. But I was like, what if we built that up high with a step at the end? And so we're crawling into bed. Yeah. And you could still sit up in bed. And then there were all these dresser drawers underneath. And so I literally have to just tell him these things. And I know he'll figure it out. And so he did. And he figured that out. And for most, it would be a little trickier for like my parents to crawl up into that bed every night. They're kind of like, oh, that doesn't work for us. And I'm like, well, then we wouldn't do that for you. But for like younger families, it's totally doable to crawl up into a bed. And it gives you such an immense amount of storage. below you. And drawers, I think, are just so much more practical than cabinets. And so that was kind of, it started in that first one. And then the second one, we did it on a lower
we did
bed.
it lower, but it was the same idea.
Same idea. And everybody that we've renovated an RV for since has asked for that turned bed. So we just haven't stopped.
And it is completely functional. It works perfectly. It gives you enough space to now be able to change in the room that you weren't able to before.
Yeah, instead of having to kind of like walk and squeeze around the bed on the sides, you've now got 1.5 feet or sometimes 2 feet of space. That's a full walkway into the room. And so there's enough space to be in there, to turn around, to change your clothes. We've made office spaces in there now.
It just came out of everything that I do. I feel bad because I feel like I often get the credit for this stuff. I literally only put it together. Aaron is the one who says, I want to do this. So figure it out and don't come back until you figure it out. I swear. So she's all about turning the bed. Anything that we've come up with has been
I'll look at a space and I'll think, okay, I know that 3 kids are going to be in this space. How can we make this space function for 3 kids and with the most floor space and storage and drawers? And so we kind of brainstorm for a while and come up with something, and then he pulls it off. And the rig that we're in right now was his sister's, and they were a family of 4. And they're like, we need a bigger rig. This one doesn't work for us. So we're like, we'll buy it and we'll make it work for a family of 6. And we did. And we made the front bedroom. We gutted that and put in the 4 bunks for the kids, and then made the dinette into a bed and a couch. And I think we just look at a space and we're like, how can that function the best for a family to travel and explore in?
Do you end up moving that wall every time, or do you leave the wall kind of where it's at, that entertainment wall, or that divider between the bedroom and the bigger space, the living space?
So I tend to take apart everything. So I'll rebuild everything, dude.
Well, and especially
I don't want
to. He'll take the wall down because often that's a good place for a barn door.
Yeah.
But the wall that's there isn't sturdy enough to hold a barn door. So he'll rebuild that wall and add extra support so we can add the barn door. Typically the wall stays where it is, but it all depends. We've pushed it back because they've wanted a coffee bar.
We'll move them, but I typically take that wall down. Yeah, they're built terrible. They're not square. And when I take them, then wherever I build the studs is intentional for where I'm going to be mounting things. So like she said, the barn doors. So I'll put a stud exactly where I know the barn door is going to be sliding, the television mounts, all of those things. So I'm a huge fan, at least for myself, of taking those walls down and rebuilding them.
So oftentimes the trailers are nearly fully gutted.
The only walls I typically don't touch are the bathroom ones if I don't have to. But I completely rebuilt
in the White Hawk.
And that ended up so fun. So, and it's like the more I take it apart and put it back together, that just encourages me to go even harder, to try even further. So, I look forward to the day when Jaco just says, I'm going to send you a shell and just go for it. That'll be a rad day, and I look forward to it.
Have you guys found a make that you prefer, like in those 13 over any of the others for any reason?
Yeah, Jaco's for sure my favorite to work with. They're just more solid. It seems like that company still cares a little bit. Who knows how much longer that will be, because these companies don't. But Jaco seems to be the one that I'm most of a fan of.
That's our current renovation and probably our next renovation. We own 2 Jacos right now. We have no personal RVs, but we own 2. So,
have you guys ever lived in one?
No, we took like a 30-day trip. So like backing up on us too, like I don't know if it was like 2017 or 18, somewhere in there, like our eyes open to full-time traveling and extended RV traveling. And I think we found KYD and Less Junk, More Journey, and we found you guys, and it was kind of like those are the 3 that we went to for like inspiration as to like, oh, let's get the kids out, let's do something like this.
So we can look at us since 2017.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Somewhere, I don't know. I was trying to remember like, where if there was like a crossover event. Were you guys ever on one of those other like channels, or like how it happened?
Yes, that's exactly. We were with Less Junk More Journey.
Oh yeah, we
in
traveled with
2017.
Marissa and Nathan for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
went on a caravan with them. So
And that's what I was saying, April. I was saying I thought like there was like that's how, then we like looked you guys up, and that was like, when we were trying to figure out, what are we going to do? Because we had debated do we take the kids out of school? Do we go for a year? What are we going to do? And we ended up deciding that trying to take a small trip first and seeing how that went was going to be our best approach. But yeah, it was families, your three families basically were like, that's where we went to for guidance.
That's awesome.
So that's weird small world, right? This podcast might not even be here right now if it wasn't for some YouTube video that you guys put out. That's
true.
Yeah,
that
awesome.
weird butterfly effect of the universe, huh?
that's
Dude,
cool.
and that's great.
That's how everything in life happens.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Good for you guys. Well, so how many rigs have you done?
So we are number 7 right now,
Yeah.
And then, like I said, we have, our next one lined up for sure, and keep going from there. It was, it started as we did it, personally. We had done 2 rigs, and they both sold really quickly.
Yeah.
And we have been full-time photographers and doing video work for about 20 years, and in a studio, and that was what we did. And then obviously with COVID, like a lot of our stuff was corporate and like weddings, events.
Yeah.
So all that stuff went off the table, and we weren't really able to go use our studio. And so we just had to we had already planned on we were going to buy a rig in the spring and redo it and use it and sell it in the fall. But we had to keep the lights on. So we were like, we got to repurpose what we're doing with that camper we're going to buy. And so, yeah, we're in 7. Eventually we'll get into 8 here in the next 30 days. And
wow.
that's
Awesome.
so
Nice.
what's up?
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's learning experience. We didn't have a whole lot of, I wasn't a home builder or, anything like that previous. So it's been fun to learn new things and get better at them. And
Heck yeah. That's what it's all about, man.
yeah. And then trying to use some of that creativity still. And that's what we really found, like after we did that first renovation during COVID, we were like, oh my gosh, we just needed some sort of creative outlet. We hadn't realized how pent up, just like staying home and worrying and this and that, and not being able to, do the regular creative things that we had normally done. Like it was just such a release or relief to like put that energy somewhere.
Crazy. Wait, so you've done 7 in a year?
No, so we did 2 personally. We did, I guess, 5. So we're on our 5th one.
Since COVID hit?
Since COVID hit, yeah. Got to have our head down. There was no youth sports. There's a lot of all those things that filled up the calendar previously that are slowly trickling back on. Like, they were gone.
Yeah, I
so
know. We get that too.
it was weird. It was really weird.
Dude.
What's that?
That's a lot of output.
It's a lot of. It's been some long hours, but it's fun.
Crazy.
Fun still. So that's the main point, right?
Yeah.
Do something that we enjoy and keep things going forward, and hopefully, show our kids, some sort of lesson through that too. That got to keep plugging, keep going forward, and finding avenues to grow and improve.
Yeah. Totally.
So Travis, one of the things obviously we've noticed through your renovations and the projects that you're doing is that you do a lot of metal work. And I think you kind of touched on, maybe you had a past as a welder. Yeah. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because I'm somebody who I haven't done any sort of metal work whatsoever. And with this podcast, we're trying to, not only like provide, other people that are, renovating campers and renovators, entertainment, but also hopefully, some helpful tips along the way too. Can we talk about maybe how somebody could, maybe dabble in a little bit of metal work, building some shelf brackets or a bunk ladder or something a little bit? Is there any kind of guidance you can throw out there?
So I lucked out when I was 19, I got a job at a metal shop and they fabricated custom Harley Davidson parts. So it was, I walked into a place not knowing anything. Literally I was the dude cleaning fenders because I didn't know anything. But after 11 years, I realized, you leave a company like that and you kind of enter the world and you kind of have like a doctorate on hand that you didn't know you had. So I just walked out of there with a lot of knowledge, and my boss was incredible and willing to teach. And he taught us TIG welding and MIG welding and all sorts of things. So when I left there, those skills really just transferred over. But I think the biggest thing was watching someone create out of nothing that inspired me more than anything else. So that's really what I learned. I think as far as the ability to weld, it takes a dedication and a willingness to know you're gonna really suck and you will get better.
And it took 11 years. There's 11 years of
11
welding
years
experience to get where he is now.
And that was 11 years of learning, how metal works well together. And it's not something that I think you're just going to be like, well, I'm going to be a welder and I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
It takes, like, it was almost a decade of my life, dedicated to metal work.
And he was welding things that had to be perfect. He was welding these custom fenders and gas tanks for show bikes. So they couldn't be messed up. And his boss was, adamant about that. So I think from that, as stressful as that was, out of that, he grew into this incredible welder. And so I think that really helps. I think that helps us design things that necessarily you wouldn't find in an RV. When it comes to the table legs and the ladders and the steps. And he kind of has this skill that not a lot of people have, which we've been able to bring into the RV renovations, which has been really cool.
So
if there was like the most basic kind of project, like a shelf bracket, is that you have to weld? Like I'm completely oblivious when it comes to really most of any of this kind of stuff. So
so the best for the stuff we're putting into the rigs, TIG welding is the best kind of welding.
What is TIG welding?
TIG welding is what you would see on like a bicycle. So they're just smaller welds for things that are industrial strength. So TIG welding, you can do it in a small area in a garage. You'd be able to do that. But really what welding takes is just time. It takes time. You have to be dedicated to it, and you have to be willing to burn yourself and learn through it. There's no quickness to it. It's not like putting a screw in wood. Not at all like that. So to be a welder, you have to just dedicate yourself to learning the skill and learning that it'll probably take a year to get any good at it. Not a lot of people do it anymore. I mean, blue collar work is out the window at this point, it seems like. So there's no easy solution. If you want to be a welder, buy a welder, take your time, watch YouTube videos and just don't give up on it, because it's easy to feel like you're not good at it because it takes time. If you want to put that much effort into it, it's a great skill. I look at it now and I couldn't be more grateful that I ended up at that shop. It wasn't a dream of mine. It just happened. But I'm so incredibly grateful to have that in my back pocket.
So you're making me feel like I should just keep letting April shop online for any metal things we need. Is that?
Well, we're producing stuff these days.
Yeah, there's some.
We get so many questions for the things that are metal that we put in our rigs. So we started just last week, we dropped our first set of open shelves for rigs with a how to install video. And, it's all welded brackets with a rail around it. And it was kind of like, okay, people are asking for these things. Like maybe we should put those out. We have a few table legs coming out next. And most people can build tabletops, using wood, but it's the table leg that you can't really weld, so that's kind of where that's kind of taken our business in a different direction. Still renovating RVs, but I think we would love to start turning our business into, so many people are renovating RVs now. So it's like, well, why don't we give them the product to really turn their RV into something special? Because those are the things that people love about our renovations. And so,
and those are the things that I've always loved. I mean, my favorite days on these renovations are the last 3 weeks when it's like, okay, it's time to be creative and fill those spaces. So we just kind of looked at it and we're like, okay, we probably have like 10, 15 products that we could recreate that would work. So we're in the beginning stages of those. But as far as welding, dude, it's the best thing ever. Take your time, if you really want to do it. It's a big investment because welders are expensive.
And another thing to do would be, I'm sure you could find somebody to come and train you. I know he's done that for several people we know, where he has, gone to them or they've come to him and he's trained them. And he is our 6-year-old in the shop welding, who's terrible, but like he loves it.
By the time he's 8, he's gonna be better than me. So, But it is a skill that I'm so stoked to have, and I love it. It's my absolute favorite type of building thing. I'd rather weld than sand wood. I love welding. It's great.
Yeah, I did this video project that I was really proud of, where it was like more or less, I don't know what you'd call them, but they built anvils and horseshoes, and it was like obviously a lot of metal work. Yeah, a lot of tools for blacksmiths, and it was just such cool footage, all the sparks and everything in slow-mo and hyper fast shutters. And
he's done some really cool images.
It's a badass medium. So
I love, at night, when I usually work at night, if I'm grinding or welding stuff, I'll take my camera out, set the tripod up and film it, because it's just so fun to watch the sparks. Cool. So I get that side of it too.
That's awesome. These mountains that you guys put in your rigs, where did that come from? It's kind of like your trademark logo.
Dude, that's the exact. We were driving back from Texas from picking up that rig when we sold ours in Oklahoma, and I had decided I wanted to do a barn door one. That was a decision I made. So in my head, I just came up. I was like, okay, I want to put a design on it somehow, and that mountain just stuck out. And when I finally got to build it on that door, I was so excited, and it just felt like it was something cool and unique. So then I put it on our next barn door.
On the next barn door and the next barn door.
And it was just this progression.
It was really neat when we did that fifth wheel for Heidi and Josh. Before they went in to see it, they had like debated and had this bet about where the mountains would be. In that rig. And I think that was when it hit me about how special those mountains really are. And I was like, oh, like this is a thing that like people really look for. And so then I think from there on out, it's just, and that was like our 8th renovation. So I think from then I was like, okay, we got to do mountains in all of them. Like no matter where it is, it's got to be somewhere. And like in our personal rig, it's on the top of the slide right here. And so it's just, I love it. And then I always come out, and every mountain scene is different.
That's been a pain too, though.
He'll always kind of like keep it hidden, and then I'll come out and look at it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this one's my favorite, and then the next one's my favorite.
Yeah, a lot of them I dream them up months and months before I finally get to do them. But those nights when I finally get to do them are always pretty special and cool. So it just came out of nowhere, man. I don't even know how it popped in my head, but it was there one day. I just went with it.
And Aaron, you kind of mentioned that there's obviously been an explosion in RV renovation. Probably Instagram's to blame for that one.
Right.
As you guys have been in this, been doing this for a while now, even though, it hasn't, it's not like it's been 100 years, but you guys are definitely, you're kind of OG at this point.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the whole explosion? And do you feel like this is like a fad? Is it going to come and go? Is RV renovation going to get washed away, or is it here to stay on some level?
I think it's great. I think that people being able to go in and get creative in their space and renovate their RV, I think it's fantastic. We're really creative people. And so having that outlet, especially during COVID and the pandemic and not getting to go anywhere, I think that's a fantastic outlet. I think it is great that people are buying and purchasing trailers and camping and doing this lifestyle. It seems like last year, everybody we know purchased a trailer. I think on the other side of it, I think that it downplays how hard it actually is.
To renovate one.
People often contact us and they're asked, we get asked, what do you do with the slide? How do you lay flooring? How do you do trim? What do you do with, what kind of flooring? And it's kind of like, if you're not willing to dive in and really just try, this may not be for you, because it is hard and there's no good answer, because every travel trailer is different. Every slide is different. Every measurement is different. And so people often want, do you have the plans for that front bed so that we can build that? And it's like, no front bed has been the same, because no trailer is the same. No. So it's really hard just to come up with plans. And so I think it's hard, because on one end it downplays how much work we put into these RVs, because then they're like, well, anyone can do this. And so I think then they get halfway through or partway through and they're like, what did we get ourselves into? If you're willing to push through those hard things and try new things, then like go for it. But I think you have to go into it knowing it's hard, and it's not like painting a house. You know, there's nooks and crannies and it's tricky, and but willing to push through that, then I think, you know, you can do it. Do I think it's a fad? Maybe. Travis thinks it's a fad.
So the metal shop I talked about, we built custom Harley pieces, and there was a huge, remember when American Choppers was on television, you know, and it was this huge thing. Well, we were so busy at that time that it was insane, you know, and that faded and that shop struggled. So I do think it is a fad, but I think there will be companies that make it through it. But I don't know that a lot will. I think if you only got into this business to make money, and it's going to be a quick turnaround and all of this fast ideas, I think those people will fade away. Sorry to say. And I think those ones who really kind of got into it at the beginning and have been really patient with it, and I think they'll be able to make it through the fad and continue producing something that's actually meaningful.
And I think if you're longevity. Doing it for the right reasons,
I think you'll make it through.
I think it'll be all right. But,
you know, but it's nerve-wracking.
I love that families are wanting to purchase trailers and camping. I think that that's fantastic. I grew up camping. He grew up camping. The first thing we bought together was a trailer. Yep. Like we were 2 months into dating and we bought a trailer, because we knew that we'd both grown up doing that. Yes. And we wanted to continue that. And so I think that
I think more just all of these companies coming up trying to do it, I think that will fade more or less. But I think the idea of a beautiful renovated trailer will always have a place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Truly. And I feel like we've taken a lot of lessons from our photography business, you know, in the sense that, you know, we saw a couple of ebbs and flows, and, you know, like you mentioned, it being like really saturated by you. That's, I think, probably how it is everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so I think also like taking some of the things we learned, you know, from doing that over the years, and some of the trends and stuff we just saw with, you know, we're using some of those lessons to use in this business and moving forward.
Okay, yeah, we said the same thing earlier. We built a really successful photography business, and because of that, we really learned how to market and how to really try something new that might be scary, but to, you know, jump in and just give it a go. So, and
also I think being really specific with so with our photography, we're what I'm looking for is so specific that you have to actually want that. And we've put that same energy into the trailers. They're so specific to us. I mean, you guys named a few things that are specific to us. So I think keeping, you know, real focus on what we're producing is what's going to continue for us.
Yeah, I think you guys will be just fine.
Well, thank you. That means a lot.
If it's what you enjoy doing, you know, you'll.
For sure. And it is. And I think that as long as he enjoys continuing to do it, you know, we'll continue to move forward. And we love the ability it's scary to build your own business. It's very scary. Most people we know won't do that, because the comfort of working for somebody else is easier. I always know that I have teaching I could fall back on, and I could, you know, go teach in a classroom, but I love being able to be home with the kids and we live and we work in the same spot. And so there's so many amazing benefits to the late nights and the worry of work and wondering what's happening next. And, and so I think that it's all worth it in the end. And we'll continue to do that until we're like,
until we're old. I'm in the group.
We're excited for you guys that we heard you're going to take a vacation.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're excited for ourselves.
We saw that last night. We're like, good for you.
We never took a honeymoon. I had 2 kids when we got married. And so it was work from moment one. Out. He's exhausted. And we happen to have these 2 rigs we're renovating. And so while we're gone, our employee is going to lay the flooring. And so just the timing of it all, it was like, well, we don't really need to be here for that because he can do that. And my parents were like, we'll take the kids. And it was like, I don't know, I'm kind of still freaking out, but.
Well, you do. That's the way to go.
I know. I like that idea too. So.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's been pretty cool.
I haven't painted a rig in 3 rigs now, and that's the best.
That's amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of days where I'm thinking like, God, where I'm not getting stuff done, but I'm like, if there was just somebody else doing a few things on that list.
That was the point we got to.
It was just like I'm running errands, and there's things that need to be getting done, and they're not. Oh, so that's been a huge. I mean, it's a stress on the other end because now you got to pay somebody, so that's hard. But man, it's really he's worth his weight in gold. He really is. And he weighs quite a bit, so that would be a lot of gold. He's a tall kid.
Not because he's
big. He's just tall as shit.
He's not that. He's just really tall.
He's big, dude. He could definitely beat me up if he wanted to.
He might now.
Have you guys, so obviously this vacation is a step towards this, but have you guys found a good method for balancing work and life and running your own business and raising your kids? And what's the secret?
Not really. I think with the pandemic and having to hunker down, it really forced us to stay home and get things done. And we have a son with a compromised immune system. So it really made us just stay home. And in the beginning of it all, his dad was really sick. So it made us stay here, build this business, grow in that way. When his dad passed, we took, a month off and we traveled. And it was the greatest. We went up Northern California, didn't really have a plan. And our friends jokingly said, come to Michigan. And we were like, okay. So we booked it there and booked it back to shoot his cousin's wedding. And, I don't know if there is a balance with 4 kids and running your own business, but we definitely don't feel guilty when we take a trip or a vacation. I think this next vacation, I feel the most guilty because we've never left the boys before. And so it's guilt and just mom stress of that.
Yeah, mom guilt is real.
Yeah, I don't know. But when we take that month off and we travel with the boys, I don't think we feel guilty because we've put in our 12-hour days and time. And
put our time in. I mean, I worked on Easter Sunday this year. And it's like, I'm so lucky. It's not like I'm working all day, but there's always something I'm trying to get done. There's always something drying.
But I think that's the downside of living where you work also, because he's like, I'm just going to go run to the shop real quick and do this. And I'm like, it's dinner time, dude.
We're just so lucky. Our marriage is so solid. We're so fortunate. So we're able to, we just understand okay, you just got to put time in. It's okay. We have dreams and goals. And when we take that
month off and get out of here, it's not.
And the ability, staying present, like we talked about earlier, the ability to just shut it off when it's time to shut it off is a key component to this. And every now and then she'll look at me and just we need to take a full family day and we're going. So those are the easiest for me, is when we actually get pulled away from the property and I can actually just focus on the family. But it is tough sitting where we work and where we live, and a lot of things, it's hard to just pull away from it at times. But
I hear that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you guys do the same thing. You live and work together.
Yeah.
And we've debated a few times renting a garage space or something, especially in the winter. We think about how much more we could probably get done if it wasn't 20 degrees out or less. But there's also just the convenience of bouncing outside. And for us, it's going to the side of the house or the garage or whatever, working on things, even if it's for 20 minutes and then coming in for lunch or, if something else needs done, it's also, there's pros and cons to that both ways, but
Yeah, but it's also
Yeah.
a great benefit for our kids because they know right where dad is whenever they need him. They
Yeah.
know they can
Whenever
walk,
they need me.
open the gate and go right to the shop and all day long.
The toddler even knows where to find me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like all of our product shelves and stuff, those were built between the hours of 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock at night. All of them. Like and it was just after dinner, the kids are done, go and put in the time. So yeah, it's a great benefit, but it also is draining. And I'm feeling drained at this point. So this vacation is going to come at a perfect time for us for sure.
the beach will bring it back to you.
Oh, dude, the beach. Oh,
Will you end up surfing in Kauai?
nah, I don't know.
I
don't
think you
know.
should. Why
We'll
not?
see. I may rent a board. I haven't gone too often. That was something Dad and I did together all the time. So I'm still kind of on tough waters with it a little bit. But I hope maybe we'll rent a board if it fits the time.
Yeah, I think you should.
I'm bad on all boards, but our kids have gotten, like during COVID, they got so into skateboarding, and so
Nice.
we have ramps everywhere now, and
Awesome.
but I can't help them out a lot, but I can help provide them obstacles to.
There you
Well,
go.
that's me too. When I was a kid, I was a huge skateboarder, and we built a few ramps. But now I'm older and have the ability to build any of the ramps. My kids don't skateboard at all, really. I'm like, come on, guys.
Well, we live in a lot of dirt, so there's not like
There's
they
not
have
much
a good space to skateboard yet. So we'll have to figure that out.
Do your boys get involved with the renovations at all, or kind of?
Trenton did a lot when he was little. We've been lucky. I've always been able to bring him with me since he was like 3 or 4.
Yeah, because his parents are right here.
Yeah, he would come and stay with my dad all day, and they'd pick up dog poop on the property. But the Trenton has always been a little bit of. He'll always paint sometimes. Now that all of his brothers are here, he doesn't really come into them as much, and now it feels a lot more like work. So it's more like dad's at work time, and they try and leave me alone as
And
much.
how old is he?
The 6-year-old. So we have a 6, 10, and 12.
And 2.
And 2. And no.
That one's new.
Yeah, he's new. He still doesn't. He's not gonna paint yet. But yeah, they do kind of help out if I allow them. I'm also such a perfectionist, and
he works best alone.
It's hard for me if even a full-grown human's around me when I'm working.
Yeah.
So you guys have this Outback for sale. Do you guys have any other services or products you want to talk about?
I think we have this Outback renovation that was sold to a family, and they called us and they're like, actually, we really think we want to settle down in Homestead in Iowa, I think was where they are.
I think Iowa.
And so they were like, but if you can continue to renovate it and have a family that would buy it, perfect. So we're continuing to renovate it. It's still for sale. And then we have another renovation that we're on that is owned by a family in Northern California. And then we're taking our next rig in September. So we're kind of just, as things come, we're cranking them out. We have a few table legs that'll go up on our website soon.
What's those style going to be, or what kind of table legs?
These are just steel. It's like 2-inch square tubing, with a base and base for the floor. Pretty basic, pretty nice. They're powder coated satin black, so they look super sharp. So those are cool. I have a ton of different ideas for the sizes of the shelving that we'll be trying to get out. I want to do some tabletops to sell, so I hope to be doing that.
Figured out the logistics on shipping and all of that is tricky too.
Yeah, and there's so much I want to be doing, just not a lot of time. I mean, we have 2 full renovations right now that we're going on,
and then we have this one we're sitting in that'll be a rental.
I just finished the shower in this like yesterday, and I'm so psyched with how it came out, man. And
so you guys gonna deliver and set up, or how are you gonna do the rental?
we actually lucked out. Her dad's retired, and we have an old friend who's a retired dude too. So they'll be delivering them the rig and setting it up for our clients. We are planning on not having others tow it. We really want it to more or less be like an Airbnb, completely ready to go when you get there and you walk in and enjoy it and then walk out.
Don't have to dump it. Don't have to
Yeah.
worry about all of that.
So that's on the to-do list.
Yeah, it'll be up on RV Share in the next week or two. So that's exciting.
We're excited about that. And I'm hoping if that does work and go well, I would love to purchase another one and have two of them sitting on the property working like that. Maybe get maybe even a fifth wheel, a larger size one, and kind of try and just get that residual income. So we're not constantly, waiting for a paycheck at the end of a renovation or whatever the case is. So that's what we're working on.
And it's great for those families that can't afford to go buy a trailer, but want to try camping and want to do it in something that's fun and unique. This one definitely gives them the opportunity to do that. And then we will take it out and travel in it as well. So
that was really
it was like,
okay, if we can make a business out of it and be able to use it for ourselves, it's twofold. So
that's brilliant. Yeah, we've thought about that one a little bit, but we've thought about like also how much time do we have to be taking them and setting them up and cleaning them, and
that's where we really lucked out with having two people available for that. Or I'll make our young kid Buddha do it, get him some experience driving a trailer. So
do you guys have campsites pretty near where you live, so you won't have to deliver like super far? Or
yeah, I think we'll go within like a 50-mile radius is what we'll kind of stick to. But then if they want to go, like San Diego isn't a terrible drive. Orange County is not a terrible drive. Palm Springs is a quick drive. And then we have Big Bear. We have being where we are, we've got ocean, mountains, desert, all within an hour of us.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So there's a lot of options for camping out here and a lot of great campgrounds that, we've enjoyed. So I think because of that, it really gives us the ability to offer, a lot of locations for delivery. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you guys want to bring up at all, or?
I don't think so.
You did great, man. Good job.
Aw, thanks.
We had the easy job.
Yeah.
You guys are such
did
naturals.
great.
You do this all the time. So, but we want to thank you for your time and obviously your inspiration, not just to us, but to so many other people that, have come across your content, over the years. And hopefully there'll be more people that, if they haven't checked it out, I'll check it out after hearing this. But where's the best place for people to find you guys and find what you're up to?
Definitely Instagram is where we post most often. Our Lively Tribe and Our Lively Tribe RV Renovations. You can find us there on Instagram. YouTube, I try to keep up with that. I've got a 13-year-old who's kind of getting into it. So I'm like, maybe I'll have you we sign you up for some classes on editing. So YouTube is good too, but pretty much Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And I do a lot of content creation, but not as much like content digestion, I guess. But I know I've seen a little bit. April showed me, like, Travis, you have another account too. We're on YouTube for like woodworking and metalwork. Is that something that you're keeping up?
I have another Instagram that's my personal one, TM Woodworks and Metal. Yeah, and I post on that. That's more that's my spiritual journey, I like to refer to it as.
There's some metal and woodworking on
there but I'll post some pictures of things I've worked on and stuff. We really don't document quite as much as we probably should. The stuff that comes out of the shop, we tend to get so worked up in it that I'm not photographing nearly as much as I should be, but
it's hard. It's hard. And then you have to edit everything. And we have such a backlog of family footage. And, so I respect all the stuff you guys have gotten out there.
Living small, it's hard to like keep everything out and continue to work on it. You constantly have to put things away and then get it out later. And then you don't get it out later. So we're taking the boys' Lego room away because they couldn't clean it up, and we're turning that into an office. So maybe that'll give us the ability to edit more and photograph more and do a little more.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you guys.
Oh, thank you guys. This
Thank
was
you.
great.
It was good talking to you guys.
Thanks again to Aaron and Travis of Our Lively Tribe Renovations. Be sure to check them out on YouTube and go give them a follow on Instagram.
And if you want to keep up with us and our current projects, you can find us at New Look RV Renovation on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
We look forward to sharing more great tips, stories, and perspectives with you in the next episodes and hope to help you give your RV a new look.